I can't stand the way he reacts to something as simple as mustard. It's a condiment, for crying out loud. Yet, for him, it's become a symbol of something deeper, something that I still can't fully understand. When I first told him I didn't like mustard, I never imagined it would spiral into something so much darker. I didn't like it. I didn't need to explain further. It was just one of those things that didn't appeal to me, no different than disliking an overcooked steak. But he couldn't accept it. My husband, a man I've been with for years, couldn't understand that my taste didn't match his. Instead, he grew angry, frustrated even, as if I'd rejected a part of him. We've been married for 2 years now, and I thought I knew him well. But this was different. We've dated for 5. We've lived together, shared so much. We're both 34, for what it's worth. I'm a woman. He's a man. Does it even matter? It shouldn't. But when he started to push me into trying mustard, honey mustard, spicy mustard, all kinds, I was thrown. I tried, over and over again. All of them. But nothing ever clicked. The taste, the texture, it was overpowering, unpleasant. Yet every time, he'd insist, like I could somehow be persuaded. I know what I like. I know what I don't like. Mustard isn't something I'll ever enjoy. And that's when the first argument started. I refused. I didn't want to even try another bite. You're being picky, he'd say. But that's not what it was. It was me standing my ground, asserting my own preference. Yet to him, it was always a problem. Last night, though, it escalated. We were on our way home from a weekend trip. Tired, ready to relax, but it wasn't that simple. He stopped at a gas station. A quick bite, he said. He grabbed his hot dog, slathered it in mustard. I grabbed mine too, but I kept it plain. I didn't love hot dogs to begin with, but I'd eat them. It wasn't the point. When he saw my plain one, his face darkened. I could feel it before he even said a word. What's on it? He asked, his voice low. Nothing, I answered, keeping it simple. And then, without warning, he snatched it from my hands. He marched to the condiment station, furious, like I'd committed some unforgivable crime. He was putting mustard on my hot dog now. Telling me I needed to grow up. That I was being ridiculous. But I didn't want it. I didn't want to fight. I couldn't even look at the hot dog anymore. My appetite had vanished. So, I walked out. I went straight to the car, not a word between us. I didn't even want to be near him. He came back. And then the yelling started. His voice rose with each word, each accusation. You're embarrassing me, he screamed. And there it was, the first mention of divorce. Divorce! That word, hanging in the air like a dagger. It sent a chill through me, freezing me in place. What was I supposed to do with that? I pulled out my phone. I had to. I needed proof. I started recording. His words blurred with the sound of the car tires screeching as he swerved, speeding, driving like a maniac. And I was terrified. I was genuinely afraid. Afraid for my life. Afraid of where this could lead. His anger felt like a fire that was quickly getting out of control, and I was the fuel. We got to the hotel that night. He didn't talk to me. Not all day at work. And then, the call started. Relentless. Voicemails. Texts. His messages, like a string of threats, screenshots of divorce lawyers, as though he had been planning this all along. The texts came one after another, each one colder than the last. He didn't care. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I was numb. He didn't know the state I was in. Not physically, not emotionally. I hadn't eaten all day. I couldn't even summon the strength to pick up a fork. Instead, I just sat there, staring at my phone. His voice still echoing in my head. I never wanted to get to this point. I never wanted divorce to even be a possibility. I wish I could have just eaten the mustard, taken a bite and pretended. But I didn't. And now, here I am, in a hotel room. Alone. And I don't know what to do next. I just wish I understood why he's acting like this. Why it's come to this. Why something as simple as mustard could unravel everything. Please, someone. Tell me, I can't be the only one who sees how wrong this is. Am I overreacting? What is happening to us? The camera again. He could see it in my eyes, the weight of it all, and it only made him angrier. His ego was fragile, more fragile than I ever realized. One mistake? No, it wasn't one mistake, it was a pattern. A pattern of abuse, of intimidation, of threatening me in ways that I can't even describe. How many times had I endured his attacks, his manipulation, believing it would get better? He didn't care. And when I finally told him, when I finally set a boundary, told him that if he contacted me again beyond sending me the details of his lawyer, I would call the police, he let me go. But I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel empowered. I want to say I was strong. That I stood tall, proud of the woman I had become, but that's not what happened. No! I collapsed onto the bed in that hotel room, alone with my thoughts. I sobbed. I couldn't stop. It wasn't just anger anymore. It was a sick mix of sorrow, disappointment, and sheer exhaustion. How had it come to this? Why had I stayed so long in something so broken? He didn't care. He never cared. I was on the phone, dialing therapist after therapist, desperate to find someone who could understand, someone who could help me navigate this mess. But why is it so hard to find a therapist who's actually available? The sheer number of listings, the endless ads, yet so many turned out to be full, not accepting new patients. It felt like a joke. A cruel joke. How was I supposed to heal when no one could even see me? I looked into domestic violence support groups too, but my mind kept returning to him. How had he twisted everything so completely? I wasn't just struggling with my own thoughts, my whole life had unraveled in less than a month. He wasn't even sorry. He blamed me. It was all my fault in his eyes. And then I saw it. The post on Reddit. The repost on Twitter. The people who saw my pain and believed it, believed in the danger. I didn't feel safe anymore. I was terrified. Terrified that he would find me. Terrified that the next step in his control would be something more violent. Some even commented that he might try to kill me. I couldn't ignore their warnings. I took a step. One small, fragile step, and found a divorce lawyer. It wasn't much, but it was all I could do. I couldn't let the world know everything, too many people were watching now. But I had moved. I had to, for my safety. My work had given me the option to go fully remote, so now, I was unreachable. He didn't know where I was. There were no trackers on my phone. I'd cut off ties to anyone who might betray me. And I was getting help from the right places. But then the texts started again. The calls, relentless. It didn't matter that I blocked him, that I ignored him. He wanted me back, and he would do anything to get me to talk. I read a few of his messages, out of curiosity. He begged me to come to Thanksgiving dinner with his family. He promised me he'd do anything if I just stopped being like this, if I would just be the person he wanted. What was he supposed to tell his family? His messages oozed guilt. But Thursday came and went, and I wasn't there. I wasn't playing his game anymore. Instead, I had my own dinner. It wasn't the same. It wasn't anywhere close to what my mother used to make. But that's what I wanted. What I needed. I didn't care that it wasn't traditional Thanksgiving food. I didn't care about his family's idea of a holiday. I made rotisserie chicken with asparagus, garlic toast, and fries, the meal my mom used to make. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I cried while I ate it, because in that moment, I could almost feel her with me again. I guess my absence at dinner forced him to tell his family the truth. I had left him. The weight of it all hit me like a wave when I got the call Friday morning. An unfamiliar number. I didn't recognize it at first, but I answered anyway. Maybe it was my lawyer. Maybe it was someone I could talk to. But it was his mother. She begged me not to hang up. Her voice was shaky, pleading. "He loves you," she said. "You're his daughter. How could you leave him?" She made it sound so simple, so easy. But it wasn't. She didn't know the truth. She didn't know the full story. He had only told her about the mustard. The mustard. As though it was all just some trivial argument blown out of proportion. She didn't hear him scream at me. Didn't know how he threatened to drive us off the road if I didn't start acting right. How could she? She didn't hear the rage in his voice, or see the fear in my eyes. Instead, she repeated his twisted version. That I was the problem. I wanted to scream at her. To tell her what her precious son had really done. But I stayed silent. I didn't owe her an explanation. But the phone call wasn't over. She asked about my lawyer. What had I told them? It took every ounce of strength not to reveal anything. I knew better than that. So, I hung up. Muted her number. And she hasn't called since. I wanted to share everything. To send her the recording of him threatening me, screaming at me. I wanted her to hear how he said he'd smack me upside the head if I didn't obey him. How he would divorce me if I didn't act right. But I didn't. I couldn't. I had already said enough. He texted me again. This time, blaming me for making his mother cry. He said he'd come find me, that no locked door would keep him out. His words chilled me to the bone. But I wasn't afraid anymore. He had crossed a line, and I wasn't going to be silenced. I forwarded those messages to the right people. I knew I had to keep moving forward, no matter how hard it was. I can't say this is a happy update, but things are progressing, slowly, steadily, but progress nonetheless. Update 5. I moved. I won't disclose where, for safety reasons, but I found a new home. My job has allowed me to stay permanently remote, so at least there's that stability. I can't go into specifics about my divorce or the ongoing legal battles, but I can say this: I was granted a protective order after an incident in December. The details are still too raw to revisit, but I spent some time in the hospital because of what happened. That was when it hit me. I needed out. I traded my car, had my phone checked for tracking devices, and changed my number. I won't let him reach me. Not now, not ever again. I've moved hours away. I'm across state lines, free from him and his toxic family. All I took with me was 2 suitcases and a duffel bag of my belongings. But that's okay. I can finally build my life again, from the ground up. I'm planning to furnish and decorate this new space the way I always wanted. It's mine, and it feels good. I'm in therapy now, seeing a counselor weekly. I also have a survivor support group that meets regularly, and it's been a lifeline. I am healing. I am finally breathing again. I can say with confidence, I will be okay. Update 6. Hey, it's been a while since I posted here. To be honest, I almost forgot about this account until I saw screenshots of my story popping up on Instagram. Some key points: I'm still in therapy, individual counseling and bi-weekly group meetups for domestic violence survivors. And just to clarify, I am not dating. I saw some comments hoping I'd find my fairy tale man. That's the last thing I want or need right now. What I want is independence. What I need is self-love. I'm not ready to consider anyone else for a long time, and that's perfectly fine. In the meantime, I've discovered a love for cooking. I never realized how bland my ex's food preferences were until I had the freedom to choose for myself. I mean, mustard on a $2 hot dog? That doesn't exactly scream gourmet to me. Sorry, I had to get a little jab in. But seriously, there's nothing new or dramatic to report, and that's exactly how I want it. What matters is this: I'm alive. I'm happy. And I didn't realize just how little I'd been living for myself until I was given the space to be me again. Update 7. Well, it seems like I can't escape my story. I was getting ready for the day when I scrolled through TikTok and saw a podcast reading and reacting to my story. It's strange, but I'm here to reassure all of you, I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm free. And that crushing stress and anxiety that once lived in my chest? It's mostly gone. I finally feel like I can put my emotions into words. For so long, I was small. I had to shrink myself, adjust to the chaos, accommodate the emotional hell I was enduring. It was terrible. I didn't even realize how much I had to suppress myself just to survive. But now that I'm free, I feel rage like I've never felt before. I've spent hours screaming and crying into my pillow, thinking about everything he did to me, wondering how dare he treat me like that. How could he, of all people, think I deserve that? In therapy, I've learned so much. I read Why Does He Do That? And while it helped me understand why he treated me that way, it hasn't made me feel less angry. I'm angry, not just for what happened, but for who I am, for what he took from me. How he treated me with such disregard while showing others the respect I deserved. There were moments of relief, of course, moments of sadness too. After I left, I think I spent days sleeping, exhausted from the trauma. My therapist told me it was all normal. I didn't want this update to be negative, though. So, some good news. My therapist suggested I try yoga and Pilates, and it has been incredible for me. The deep stretches, the way my body feels stronger, healthier, it's been a massive help. I cry sometimes when I do certain stretches, especially hip openers, but it's a release. And I've made real friends. Real, healthy friendships. I joined a local women's club, part of my neighborhood. We do all kinds of activities, and this next week, we'll be working on a little embroidery project. We bring snacks, chat, and just enjoy each other's company. I'm alive. I'm angry, but that's part of healing. I'm working on being happy, though. I know I will be. And yes, I will never, ever eat mustard again. Or let anyone push me into doing something I said no to. Relevant comment: the user clarified that her ex didn't do jail time. Instead, he went to mandated counseling, which, in their state, is considered the equivalent of jail. But the truth is, he sexually assaulted me. That's what finally pushed me to leave, to get away. That's what pushed my divorce to move forward. He even told me he was trying to impregnate me.